The only way to truly experience luxury is to embrace it without apology.
I'm sorry to interrupt your spiel, but you seem to have me confused with a different class of passenger.
Sir, I was just explaining the safety features.
Now we reform.
They said he didn't belong in the first class, not because he lacked a ticket, but because of the color of his skin. It was just another boarding call at Gate 42, LAX to Heathrow. The overhead screens blinked in sterile blue. Altavia Air 611, now boarding, first class. The lounge hummed with quiet tension. On the left, a line of tourists and college students fidgeted in economy. On the right, tailored suits, polished shoes, and pearl necklaces filtered into the first-class lane like a private club. And then, Isaiah Brown stepped forward. 6'3", dark espresso skin, close-cropped curls, in a presence that didn't ask permission. His suit was charcoal gray, his coat Italian, and in one hand he held a priority boarding pass with executive platinum status. The other hand, still steady, he didn't strut, didn't smile, just walked, composed, deliberate, toward the scanner. But before the boarding agent could lift the scanner, someone else did. A blonde woman stepped in sharply from behind the counter. "You're in the wrong lane," she said, eyes narrowing. Her name badge read, R. Keene, Chief Purser. Without asking his name, without verifying anything, she snatched the boarding pass from Isaiah's hand and tore it in half. "Try economy, or whatever class. People like you fly." The terminal froze. Someone gasped. A businessman behind Isaiah shifted uneasily. A woman with pearls clutched her purse. But no one spoke. No one challenged her. Isaiah didn't blink. He simply stooped, picked up the torn pass, folded the pieces like receipts, and slipped them into his coat pocket. And then, silently, he stepped past her. Not a protest, not a word, just precision. But in that moment, something shifted. This wasn't the end of the story, it was the trigger. And seat 1A was waiting. The cabin lighting changed as Isaiah stepped into first class. It was golden, soft, curated, meant to whisper luxury. 8 leather seats glistened like thrones. Row 1A was his, and he walked to it like he belonged there because he did. Yet all around him, discomfort grew louder in silence. No one greeted him. No smiles, no champagne, just eyes that flickered and then looked away, too fast to be casual, too deliberate to be coincidence. Isaiah placed his coat in the overhead, lowered himself into the seat, and let out a breath. But when he reached for the seat controls, nothing, no recline, no reading light, no chime when he pressed the call button. His entire console was dead. And then came the sound again, the sharp, rehearsed clack of heels on aisle carpet. Chief Purser Keene returned, posture perfect, tablet in hand. "Having a bit of trouble with your seat?" she asked, all faux concern. Her fingers tapped twice on her screen. The console blinked, a soft red warning. "Appears to be a system error," she continued, voice low but audible. "Safety protocol requires us to disable malfunctioning seats. Tech will look at it after we're airborne." Isaiah said nothing. He didn't need to. His silence said more than outrage ever could. She didn't expect that. She expected him to argue, to shout, to threaten. Instead, he simply watched. But 3 rows back, someone else had noticed. Maya Liang, 23, social media producer, hoodie up, camera phone angled subtly from behind a book, had been recording since the check-in. "This guy's seat just got manually shut down," she whispered into her mic. "This isn't technical. This is targeted." She typed a quick caption. "Seat silence. Watch this space." Viewers climbed. 400, 900, 1,200. Back in row 22, an elderly woman adjusted her glasses, watching Isaiah from the economy section divider. Her face didn't show shock. It showed memory. Her name was Miss Evelyn Brown, his mother. She'd seen this before, not on planes, but in waiting rooms, classrooms, interview chairs. Same silence, same script, different setting. Up front, Keen leaned toward Isaiah once more. Money doesn't change everything, she said quietly, especially not where you sit. Isaiah didn't respond, but behind that stillness, wheels were turning, faster than anyone could imagine. Because Isaiah Brown wasn't just a passenger, he was the system's mirror, and this flight had just taken off into a storm no one was ready for. It was only 15 minutes into the flight, but the cabin felt like it had crossed an invisible fault line. Isaiah sat motionless in 1A. His console remained unresponsive. No recline, no reading light, no service call. The red icon on his panel glowed softly like a warning, not just to him, but to everyone watching. But Isaiah didn't move. Instead, he reached into his carry-on, withdrew a matte black tablet, sleek, unbranded, not the kind you buy at retail. It lit up at his touch. No icons, no apps, just lines of code, white on black. A brief scan of his face and the screen shifted. Command access granted. 2 rows behind him, Maya Liang's live stream audience had crossed 20,000 viewers. One corner of her screen showed Isaiah's dead console. Another, Keen and the flight technician whispering near the galley. Maya zoomed in as Keen passed something to the technician. A tan envelope, thin and precise. The kind of envelope that didn't contain apologies. She whispered, "Did she just pay him off?" Chat exploded. Bribery. Rick heard that. This is about to blow up. In seat 19C, another quiet passenger lifted his own tablet. Elijah Noble, a systems engineer for aerospace security. His tablet lit with a silent ping. A custom protocol flickered to life. Unauthorized device override detected. Recording all flight inputs. Elijah smiled grimly. He knew who Isaiah was, not because they'd met, but because Isaiah had built the architecture Elijah used to detect corruption inside federal transportation networks. Back in 1A, Isaiah tapped once, then twice. His screen changed. Orion Systems. Owner access level. Class A stakeholder. 54% ownership confirmed. And then the cabin changed. The seat back screens in first class flickered. A split screen appeared. On the left, a live feed of Orion Air's executive boardroom. On the right, the flight cabin with Isaiah seated in full frame. The executives looked stunned, faces twisted in confusion. A woman at the end of the board table moved to cover her webcam. Too late. Then Isaiah spoke, for the first time. This flight doesn't need a technician. It needs accountability. Gasps. On screen, a clip played. Carla Keen tearing Isaiah's boarding pass. Then the envelope. Then the technician removing his name from the manifest. On another screen, Maya's streams showed the chat racing. He's the owner? This is wild. Justice at 30,000 feet. Keen, watching the footage unfold in real time, began backing toward the galley. It was too late. Isaiah tapped again. 3 names appeared on every passenger screen in red. Carla Keen, Tobias Vance, Darla Whitmore. Status, terminated. Access revoked. Keen gasped. You can't do this from a plane. Isaiah looked up, calm. I'm not using a plane. I'm using the truth. Behind her, Tobias's laptop went dark. A red warning. Device retired, access nullified. He slumped back into his seat. They told me I was safe. Passengers stared, mouths open, some whispering prayers, others clapping slowly. In the rear of the cabin, Miss Evelyn Brown folded her hands over her heart and whispered, "This isn't a seat anymore. It's a signal." The cabin had changed, the silence had changed, and the power had shifted permanently. The seatbelt sign was still on, but no one was thinking about turbulence anymore. Because the real storm wasn't outside, it was in the cabin. Passengers weren't just witnesses now. They were participants. Phones were out. Streams were live. Comments were flooding in from London to Lagos. Hashtags like #C2A, #CalmJustice, and #Isaiah Brown were trending globally. And through it all, Isaiah hadn't moved. The executives in the boardroom scrambled. One man shouted off screen for legal counsel. Another woman reached for the power cord of her terminal. But the feed didn't blink. It had been hardwired in, a digital mirror, unforgiving. Then another screen lit up, not from Isaiah, but from Elijah. Historical patterns detected. The system began rolling footage. 6 incidents, all linked to the same crew. A black woman denied boarding, a Latino father accused of carrying a fake ID, an indigenous elder forced to check a ceremonial bag for security reasons. And now Isaiah Brown, not denied but slowly erased. The air grew dense, but not with panic, with reckoning. Carla Keene stood frozen by the beverage cart, her hands clenched, her posture shrinking. Tobias Vance stared at his dead laptop like a ghost had crawled out of it. Darla Whitmore had vanished into the economy cabin, the curtains still swaying behind her. And Mama Evelyn Brown, silent the entire time, now leaned forward. She didn't record, didn't speak. But when the golden light of the cabin hit her face, it was Maya who whispered into her mic. This woman raised the man who just changed how justice travels. The clap began in row 14, then another in row 8, and then a wave. Not loud, not frenzied, but steady, like rain on the metal wings of a plane. It wasn't applause for victory, it was relief. Isaiah blinked for the first time in a minute. His fingers relaxed, his tablet screen dimmed, the boardroom feed faded, and in its place one message. System integrity, rebalanced. Public protocols, updated. Passengers looked at each other, not with confusion, but with a strange new clarity. A teenage boy whispered to his mother. He didn't even raise his voice. His mother smiled through tears. That's what real power sounds like. Dumb. The plane descended in silence. Not the usual hush of landing procedures, but something deeper, reverent, transformed. The wheels kissed the tarmac at Heathrow. Seat 1A never reclined, but it didn't need to. At the gate, a crowd had already gathered. Reporters, activists, students, elders, signs waved in the air, truth at 35,000 feet. We see you, Isaiah. Calm, Justice. Isaiah stepped off the plane carrying only his briefcase. No entourage, no speechwriters, just presence. He approached a small platform. No microphone, no prepared statement, and said 7 words. This wasn't revenge, it was rebalancing. Now we reform. The terminal erupted, not in K, but in unity. Within hours, Isaiah launched at Ethos AI, a real-time bias monitoring system available to every institution, airlines, transit, retail, HR. No ads, no fees, no data sales, just transparency, just truth. In Oakland, a bus driver received an alert when a colleague denied a black veteran entry. A review was triggered instantly. In New York, a boutique retrained its staff after Ethos flagged racial profiling trends. Within 48 hours, 6 million downloads. Within a month, 50 Fortune 500 companies enrolled. Back home, Mama Evelyn sat on her porch, mail overflowing with letters. Not bills, but gratitude. One simply read, "Your son changed more than a seat. He changed what we believe we deserve." She folded the note slowly and whispered, "He didn't shout, he didn't rise, but he rose, and we all rose with him."